Hi guys, my name is Lilian Alvarez. I am an iOS developer and freelancer, and today we're gonna make an interview with Henrik Osted Sorensen, the current CTO and co-founder of Imoni and the famous creator of Adblock. Yes, before we start, if you are a French freelancer, I just made a very awesome newsletter for you with 7 advice to kill it as a freelancer. You should guys check the description and subscribe right now. It's gonna be really awesome. We're gonna talk about game theory, finance, how to sell in order to find customers, etc., etc. A bunch of subjects that you're gonna love if you are a freelancer. How are you doing, Henrik?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking me to come on your podcast.
Well, I'm so glad you came. It's going to be awesome. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, what you've been working on?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Well, I'm a software engineer, and I've been working primarily as a consultant since I've graduated, primarily in the financial sector. Mm-hmm. I've been part of creating the Danish national ID solution for a couple of years, which was a very interesting project. And other than that, I've been working for a lot of banks and mortgage institutions. A couple of years ago, I founded Imoni together with my friend Martin. And so now we're working on bringing our currency-backed tokens to the blockchain.
Okay, so could you tell us a little bit about Imoni? What is it? Is it a payment infrastructure that use blockchain?
Yes, that is actually the very short version of it, yes. We are building on what we like to call the third generation of blockchain technology, which has some properties that are attractive, mainly that they don't need to spend a lot of energy doing meaningless computations to run the blockchain. But what our vision is to bring tokens that have a stable value to the ecosystem of blockchains that is emerging now. It's not a completely original idea. There are plenty of tokens doing this already, but we are combining some technology with some interesting token modeling choices and a lot of regulatory exploration that we've conducted. So to create a pretty nice package that we're working on.
So who's going to use this technology?
In the short term, it will be other crypto projects and maybe people working inside the crypto space, day traders and things like that. In the longer term, what we are hoping is that the technology will be user-friendly and sound enough that real people, that real-world applications can start using it, and possibly even without people thinking about there being a blockchain in the background. It just seems to work.
Yeah,
it's still a little bit far away from that, as most blockchain user experiences are quite rough and require some technical skills, but a lot of effort is being put into moving that.
Is the goal going to be to have something like Stripe solution that we can integrate your payment solution into website or anything else?
That could be one use case. Definitely using a value plugin for websites or projects. And I mean, there are quite a lot of really fascinating aspects of this. Another one is to what is being termed as banking the unbanked. So a lot of the world has pretty bad financial infrastructure. Maybe the nearest bank is very far away from where you live, or you don't have ID papers that will help you get an account. Maybe your bank wants you to deposit money you don't have before they will accept you as a customer. All of this is something that can be remedied a lot with some of the blockchain technology that is emerging these years, and we hope to be part of this movement.
Awesome. Can you explain the blockchain technology in simple words?
Yes, no. I mean, it's about decentralization. It's about largely about not having a single authority deciding what the current state of a system is. It's about a lot of parties that actually don't trust each other agreeing on a consensus of what the state of the system is, even though they may not trust each other or they may try to attack each other. But yeah, that would be my way of describing it. But they're probably way better and shorter versions of this. It's
could you tell us how long have you been working on eMoney now? Have you guys raised fund? How is it going?
We been working full time on this for 2 years. Before that, it was like a weekend and evenings project. We started out with self-funding for the past 2 years, actually. We raised a small round in late March, but that round got a little bit torpedoed by the pandemic.
Okay.
So now we are expecting to raise more money soon. But yeah.
Okay. So you are looking for funds right now,
yes.
Or not really? Okay.
Yes, we are. We're doing it the way these blockchain projects usually fund themselves. It's by selling some tokens. Our model has an aspect that is income sharing. So that is what people would buy into.
So you are selling a crypto money?
Yes. Basically, okay. It's a crypto token that is hooked into our platform and our token model.
So I have a question on this because I'm not really. I mean, I know Bitcoin and there are a lot of money that exists, the crypto money that exists. But how do you decide the value of a crypto money? How does it work?
That's pretty complicated, and I definitely can't explain why Bitcoin is worth $11,000 or whatever it is now.
Yeah.
But for our tokens, our main value proposition is that the token, our currency-backed tokens, have a stable value against an underlying currency, for example, euro or Swiss franc or British pounds. We do that simply by market making a market where we will buy back tokens at the price that is that makes them value stable. So if we sell you a number of tokens that correspond to 100 euro, we will also have a corresponding order where you can sell them back. So that's the way we want to ensure our currency-backed tokens are stable, value stable.
So the advantage is going to be like that the cryptocurrency is going to be stable. It's not going to go up and it's not going to go down.
Yes. Basically, we will issue a number of tokens that are tracking the value of euro, Swiss franc. We'll probably soon add British pounds, and the Nordic currencies like Swedish krona and Norwegian krona.
So people should invest in its stable coins?
Well, no, they should not invest in those tokens. We also have what is called a staking token that is used to secure our network, which is called the NGM token, and the value of that is more dynamic, probably. That token's value tracks the success of the project, basically. So if we become a very prolific stablecoin issuer, then that token will be worth more.
Okay, awesome. So I would like to go a little bit back into the time and talk about Adblock.
Yeah.
Could you tell us the story behind Adblock and when and why did you start working on it?
Yeah, thanks. It's a slightly underwhelming story, actually. I was studying at the university and I was supposed to be studying for an exam, and I'm pretty good at procrastinating. So so what I did was there was back then the Mozilla browser, the Firefox browser, was called Phoenix, and had just enabled functionality that would allow you to make programs that would run in the browser, which, I mean, basically it's extensions now. And I read up on it and found it very intriguing and looked at some of the existing extensions and decided that I wanted to try it out. just to see if I could switch technologies. This was completely new. I never programmed JavaScript or worked with the browser before, so I was sort of trying to test myself. And so then I looked around for something that would be worth implementing, and I was like, oh, remove advertisement. That would be nice. I could use that. So I made a very primitive first version of that, where you could enter a like simple regular expression, and then it would filter based on the address of the image and remove it from the page. It was.
So you were like analyzing all the code of the web page, and you had like a function that was able to identify ads. And
basically, like the very simple explanation is to go through the page after it's loaded. Actually, that was the first version. It actually loaded the apps and then hit them. But it would go through a web page, find all the images, look at the address of the image, and say, okay, is this likely to be an advertisement? If yes, then hide it. Crucially, the first versions required that the user created his own list and maintained his own list of filters, which was like, again, a little bit like the blockchain thing. It's a very bad user experience and limits the users to only technical people. But the versions that came out later, after I was not involved any longer, allowed users to subscribe easily to lists. So that was a major step forward. You don't have to think about what you're blocking.
So how did you do to make sure you were blocking an ad on the website and not a critical part of the website, like of the functionalities?
Back then, it was actually fairly simple. I mean, most advertisement was served by centralized ad companies like DoubleClick, things like that. So if you added a filter that just said block everything from DoubleClick, then it would be largely make your browsing experience much better.
Okay.
I believe today it gets a little bit more complicated because some companies have started serving up ads from the domain where you also want your content from and things like that. But
yeah. So did you implement the solution that was removing ad from YouTube at the time?
No, I mean, this was back in 2003, so I'm not even sure YouTube was there anymore. No, I must admit, I don't know how they do that. I have not looked at any ad blocking code for a while. Now I'm just a user, and I'm enjoying the experience.
So you did the first version, okay?
Yeah.
You published it on the Firefox. The Phoenix, so at the time, App Store, I can say.
I think it was actually not an App Store. There was like something where you could. There was a repository for source code, and then you could upload these small archives that people could then manually download. It was also pretty rough early days. But yeah, I did that, and I believe I was in some chat room where I advertised it, and it was it got very popular very quick. Actually, that was quite an adventure. People really liked the idea and immediately took to it, and also quickly other people joined the project to commit code.
Did you track the user growth when you published it?
No, actually, I didn't have any analytics solutions for this, and no, it would have been interesting. I did not. I had no way of doing it, and also putting tracking code in something like this, I think, would be kind of a double standard.
Yes.
But so I mean, what I had was basic estimates from whenever you saw someone publish an article about it. They would say, "Oh, there are this many million users. There are this many." Possibly.
Okay, so you don't really know how many users downloaded Adblock at the time.
No, actually, unfortunately, it just felt popular. I got a lot of emails and some news media coverage that was also like quite a kick for someone living in a dorm room and just trying to pass his exams.
How did you feel at the time? Because it got really big, really fast. I mean, were you happy about it? Proud?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I was obviously proud, and it was an exciting time. And just trying to keep up. I remember this may be unfair to the Phoenix people, but I remember that I have a memory that every new version of Phoenix kind of broke the extension, so there was often a lot of patching up to do whenever a new version was released. Mm-hmm. It was a pretty rough experience. The documentation for extensions back then was also pretty much non-existent, so you would have to look through the C++ source code of Phoenix to see what hooks you could enter. And
wow,
I imagine that experience is better today, but I hope so. It was.
When it became big, it must have pissed off a lot of advertising company, I guess. Did some of these companies try to buy the project or to get in touch with you and try to find I don't know, an arrangement, if I can say?
I can't say no. That did not happen to me, actually. I mean, the only reaction I got was that Google actually noticed me and invited me for a job interview a couple of times. So that was very positive. I mean, they were definitely not trying to shut anything down or buy me. So no, I mean, I actually have not encountered any hostility from the people.
Wow.
That it affected. So that was that was pretty nice. I mean, sometimes when I see the debate about ad blocking, it can get a little bit hostile, but I've never felt it on my person. I don't know, if I stayed in the game longer, maybe it would have happened.
Yeah, I read an article that Adblock cost 5 billion to Google in advertisement, something like that, like a crazy number. So I was like, I mean, they must have tried to do something about it because it's so much money for them. I mean,
I hope they make it anyway. Well, I don't know. I mean, you could say when they a couple of years later, when they started their own browser, they also implemented extensions and allowed people to the same hooks. So in that way, they've shown quite a lot of integrity, I would say, that it's possible to run a full ad blocker on their own browser. So I guess one department in Google might hate it, but yeah. I mean, what you can also say about users that install ad blockers is that they are probably not very likely to click on ads anyway. So you might you might not be missing out on much.
Okay. Did you go to the interview at Google?
Yeah. They flew me down to Zurich. Very nice city, beautiful. I didn't pass, but
really?
Yeah.
But why?
I don't know. They have this whole day thing and 4 or 5 hours of interviewing, and
wow.
It's like being on an exam for all that time.
Do you remember the questions they asked?
A few of them, yeah. I mean, it's probably 10 years ago now, so they may have changed a lot. I don't know. Yeah. It was a fun experience. I probably would have liked to live in Zurich, but well, that didn't happen. So
okay. So why did you stop working on Adblock? I saw, and tell me if I'm wrong, you worked on it for 3 years. Is that right?
I think it was probably less, maybe 2. But
2?
yeah,
okay.
I stopped mainly because I graduated and then life happened, and like I got get used to having a full-time job and all that. It was no longer just a dormitory life. Suddenly you come home from work and you're tired and you try to make a career. It's a little bit of a dull story, but it seemed like the project was also in decent hands, it would seem. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I don't think I was missed much.
Well, you could have tried to make money out of it. It was never a goal for you?
No, not really. I mean, it was a hobby project. I never reached the stage where I would think about commercialization. Also, I'm quite a big fan of open source movement in general, and I think like just because you happen to make a project where you may have access to some kind of income doesn't mean you should. I mean, it was building on this amazing browser technology that people invested a lot more time in to make. So I honestly don't see why I should be monetizing it. Also, to be fair, I don't see how, in a way. I think it's a very fine line you have to walk to monetize something like this. It very quickly ends up looking like some kind of extortion, or you may piss off your users, like if you let them watch ads that you sort of got paid for anyway.
So let's talk about that, because I read in an article that in 2011 there were a controversy over ad filtering and ad whitelisting. They started charging a large institution. So the project Adblock was being taken by a company, I think, a German company. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
It's a company. Yeah, it's a German company. I think they're called EO, and they tried to monetize it somehow. And the way they approached it was to make, I believe it's called an acceptable ads program, where they have a committee that is not just a company, but apparently from the ad companies and some user representatives that try to determine when is an ad non-obtrusive enough to be shown to people. I mean, their philosophy, I believe, is that you do need some kind of advertisement on the web to make it survive. They just don't want stuff blinking and rotating everywhere. So they find that discrete advertisement is okay. And then they want to make a path for that. And of course, if you have a committee like that and a company that needs to run it, you need some way to finance this. And so they started charging the people who serve up the ads for that.
What do you think about that?
I mean, I find it a bit weird, actually. Yeah. I mean, I don't agree with this thing that we do need ads for the internet to survive or to monetize things. I think it's like if you see right now, some people are trying to finance news using advertisement, and I just don't see it working. Like it seems that more and more news sources are getting financed by other interests somewhere. And the really deep journalism that is so necessary, it cannot be financed. If you have some article that 3 journalists spent 6 months digging up Freedom of Information Acts and putting threads together and interviewing people, you can't finance this using advertisement on the webpage, because you have to compete with the 24 pictures of cats. Number 13 will surprise you, which will take in infinitely more views. So I think it's necessary with a different model, to be honest.
You believe that advertisement is necessary to finance some companies? No,
I think some people are trying to finance, for example, news using advertisement, and I think it's just not gonna happen, basically.
Okay, so you don't believe in advertising in news media, for example?
Oh, sure. I mean,
you don't think it's the best. You don't think it's the best business model?
No. I don't think if you want to finance a bunch of journalists doing actual journalism, that is probably not going to work out, I would assume. I mean, we've been hearing the media industry cry out about this for the last 10 years, and they are having trouble making it work. And I don't believe it's because of people are blocking ads. I mean, what you see now is that people like Jeff Bezos, they have to buy up newspapers and sort of support them and promise that they will not interfere with the reporting. And then you probably have other news outlets that have similar arrangements that they're more discreet about because maybe there is interference.
Yeah, I think in France we have, I think like 80% of the news outlets are owned by billionaires, something like that, like a crazy number. Yeah.
Okay, so if they have an agenda, you'll probably read about it. Yeah, I mean that's.
It causes a lot of controversy.
I hope so. In Denmark, we have like the state pays out support for media according to some kind of like quality level that they need to fulfill. I mean, it's not optimal, and you can say the state should probably not be doing this, but it does mean that we do have media that are not. We don't feel they're too biased by whoever pays the bills.
Okay,
which I think is incredibly important.
Did the German company that is working on Adblock try to have you on their team?
No. I mean, I've never had any contact with them. I mean, to be fair, I don't think I would have been that much of a contributor on their team. It would like I wrote the initial code, but it was not like it was rocket science. It was just the right time. So yeah, I know they haven't. I haven't had any communication with them. I read about them in the media now and then, but
okay.
So how come you reached out? I'm curious how you decided to.
So that's actually a good story because I watched a video. I don't know if you know the website Chat Roulette.
Yes. I've heard of it. I've never tried it, but is this one where you get matched randomly with?
Yes, with people all around the world. So the founder is a Russian guy named Andrei Ternovsky.
Okay.
And he made an interview with big media in France, and it was really funny. And during the interview, he said, "You shouldn't." I mean, he said that he wasn't using ads in his website, and that everybody should download Adblock.
Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
And I did an interview with this guy. I hope it should come out soon. Really crazy interview. And I was like, well, I need to do a podcast with the Adblock creator now.
Oh, okay. That's a good story. Yeah, I could imagine he's a bit more colorful than.
He's a very colorful guy.
Yeah, I could imagine. Fun. Okay.
So we are getting to the end of the interview, and I have a couple weird questions, if I may say.
Yeah.
So if you could have dinner with anybody alive in the world, who'd you pick?
That's interesting. I think either William Gibson or Neil Stephenson. Like they are two of my favorite authors, and I think they would probably be very interesting dinner companions. I might not say too much. I would probably just listen to them. But
so they are writers?
Yes, William Gibson. He wrote. He wrote what's called Neuromancer back in the 80s, which is he invented the term cyberspace and came up with the first cyberpunk novel. And since then, he's also been writing other stuff that is not science fiction but near future fiction, which is really quite amazing. And he has this ability to see the current world and trends in the world that I find incredibly fascinating. I went to a lecture with him once, and it was very captivating. Neil Stephenson is another author who writes very nerdy stuff. He wrote some hard science fiction, and he wrote one of my favorite books called Cryptonomicon, which I would argue it was written before all the cryptocurrency stuff, but it really shares some of the cryptocurrency philosophy, which I find very interesting.
Well, could you talk about that, the cryptocurrency philosophy?
About what he writes about is how some people are trying to take power away from the central banks and move it towards some more nerdy types. It's not a philosophy I'm like buying particularly into, but it's really fascinating, and what he's the way he describes it. On top of that, there's also a lot of World War II drama with enigma and code breaking and spies and secret agents. It's a very nerdy book, but also like an action book. I highly recommend it. Cryptonomicon.
Cryptonomicon. Okay, we'll put it in the description.
Thank you.
So, do you have any advice for people, young people that have the inventor spirit, if I may say, and they have this will to create new stuff, but I mean, it can get complicated. I don't know. Do you have any advice for that kind of person?
I would say try to just throw yourself into it. I mean, the possibilities that we have today with like the internet and all the technology that is just lying there for free is quite amazing. There's the possibilities that cloud computing give you in scaling from very little to when you have 1 million users. It's also quite incredible. So I mean, I'm imagining it's the best time to do something like this as it is now. I would add that people should probably try to do it together with someone. I think the startup journey alone, I mean, it's hard when you're several people, but alone it must be really, really tough. Also, I would maybe say like try to get some real world experience as well. I mean, sometimes when I see young people going out with an idea, it strikes me as a little bit naive. And if they had gone out to some kind of industry and looked at the problems, tried to solve some of the problems in there, then they may come up with some more in-depth ideas for stuff to solve, which could be profitable.
Yeah, so gaining competence and experience before trying to solve big problems.
Yes, that is a good way to summarize it. Yes.
Yeah.
Of course, if you have this amazing, groundbreaking idea, I mean, go for it.
I told you before the interview that I did a podcast with Andrei Ternovsky, the founder of Chatroulette.
Yeah.
And I asked him, and I'm curious to have your answer. I mean, I'm gonna ask you the question first. If you could do something new today, not e-money, you could build any website or apps today, what would you do?
That's a tough one. I think some of the technologies for supporting free speech in oppressive regimes is quite interesting and rather important right now. Privacy technologies, so we don't have 3 or 4 companies collecting all your data. Things like that. I think this trend of centralized data storage with information on every person on the planet is quite scary. So something to counter that would be interesting.
So a kind of social media that do not collect personal user data and that allows people to speak freely?
Yeah, that would be interesting. Although, I mean, you also cannot ignore that when people can speak completely freely, you also get all these QAnon type cultures. So it's a very delicate balance you have to strike between absolute free speech and being able to sort of deplatform very toxic content. I don't have a solution for it, obviously, but it's yeah.
There are a lot of controversies about this. I think with Twitter and with Facebook, because some people get censored and they're not really happy about it. But I think that each platform is trying to maintain their business model, you know, because they have income coming and they cannot, I mean, do bad thing in terms of their money flows. But they try also to keep the platform clean, and it's really difficult because you have like really heated debates. And I think, I mean, we had like Mark Zuckerberg testifying before Congress, and he talks a lot about free speech and fact checking, you know.
Yeah.
And there is this debate where Facebook should fact-check like advertisement, but it's really complicated, I think, because I mean you have to know the truth, and how can you know for sure that you're like that you have the truth in some sense? And so I mean I think it's really a really complicated issue to solve, because you have like censorship, and you have like the danger of lies that you can spread. And I think that's a really difficult balance to find for social media, especially when they are big and when they have like billions of people.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can also, I must say, I kind of hate Facebook. I think they're basically destroying democracy all over the world, but that's another story. But I mean, I'm kind of surprised. I can understand why they would argue against having to police their own content, because I mean, how do you check all this content that people are uploading? It's
impossible.
Yeah, probably. So it's pretty difficult task that they would be getting. On the other hand, I mean, the abuse that has been made possible on that platform is just mind-blowing.
So yes, before I ask you the question, I told you about the interview with Andre.
Yes.
And he kind of gave me the same answer as you did for the question about having an advice for young people.
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, he didn't answer my question, really.
He's a real politician.
Yes, he's really good. He told me like he would not try to do something new. He would start by working on a new field and try to learn something new first, to become an expert in one field, because he told me that when you are an expert, ideas come to you because you know so much, in a sense.
Yeah. Okay. So also the advice to young people that they should gain some experience before. Yeah. Okay. I'm very happy that I'm as smart as him, apparently. When I give advice, at least. That's nice to hear.
Yeah. So where can people find out more about eMoney, and what should people do?
They can go to our website. That's a very good starting point for learning more about it. It's emoney.com, so it's easy to remember.
With
a dash between E and money. Yeah. Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Henrik.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Prouvez-moi que ma maman et la NSA ne sont pas les seuls à écouter cet épisode. Abonnez-vous, mettez un énorme pouce bleu et notez le podcast, ça nous aide vraiment beaucoup. Merci.